Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Coach's Corner. Woohoo! Very excited today about today's episode. But before I get into that, if you are a user of IrisVision and you have any questions, you can always call in to our support line. A customer support rep is always ready and excited to help you. That phone number is 855-207-6665. Press 2 to speak to a customer support rep. If you are not an IrisVision user and you have questions about it, or you've run across it online or anything like that, you can call into that same phone number, 855-207-6665, and speak with one of our awesome sales reps. They'll be able to help you understand which product is a better fit for you, because as most of you know, we have IrisVision Live and IrisVision Inspire, and the sales reps will be able to walk you through to figure out which device is a better fit for you. Okay, so that's 855-207-6665. Throughout this session, if you have any questions, please make sure you put them down below. Someone will definitely respond to you. And also, if you're interested in being a part of the Coach's Corner, if you are a user of the device, then please send your inquiries to info@irisvision.com. That's info@irisvision.com, or put your request down below. Okay, so really excited about today's episode. We have one of my favorite people in the world, Tom Perski. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Myrna. How's it going today?
It's going pretty good. It's nice weather out here. I know you're in northern Arizona. I'm in southern Arizona. It's supposed to be like 71 degrees today, I think. So it's really
Right.
nice. Yeah, really nice. So for those of you out there who don't know who Tom Perski is, well, you're gonna get to know him today. He is a very awesome person. I met Tom way back in the day when I was a teenager, and he was one of the first people that I'd ever met that has Stargardt's disease. So I have Stargardt's disease as well, and it was really cool to meet him. Tom has been a pioneer in the low vision community and has paved the way for all kinds of different things in assistive technology. He's had a hand in developing assistive technology. He's been a speaker, not only nationally, but globally on all types of things related to low vision. So we're really excited to have him on the show today. He's going to be chatting with us about what it's like to live as a partially sighted or low vision individual, and how we can maybe do some things to improve our sight as well, or maybe learn how to live with it a little more functionally. Right, Tom?
That's terrific. Yes. And so it's important, I think, that people understand what can be done and what are some of the good strategies. And so we'll talk about that. And as you mentioned, Myrna, living with, I call it Stargardt macular dystrophy, which means, our macular degeneration. I was diagnosed at 19 years old and lost central vision. Had to stop driving a car. I was about 24 years old, and it went through a lot of things during my 20s. Pretty mad at the world. I had to drop out of college, and just felt so uncertain about my future, and some of those feelings that I went through back in those days. And with the help of the CCTV, the technology of the past that's still around today, was able to learn to read and go back to college, and graduated finally, and as a 10-year plan, as I say, and then went on to graduate school, and just had the fortunate opportunities of starting in the low vision field way back in the 1980s. But it was really fun before that. I was working, as my background was in counseling, in actually 40 years. 1983, I started a self-help support group there was none in the whole Chicago area for blind or low vision people. And we had 65 people come to our first meeting, which is, it was just
Wow.
amazing to me that so many, the need was there, you know, it was obvious, and people were hungry for information. And through my career now as a professional in the field all these years, I've learned so much from some of the great people in our field, and wanted to share some of those things today.
Absolutely. And you were saying that you also had a Stargardt support group at one point, right?
Yes, with the help of Dr. Gerald Fishman at University of Illinois, who was an inherited retina disease specialist, actually got a group of scientists that formed a board of directors, and we were working with people who had Stargardt disease, also with the National Eye Institute. We found over 2,000 persons in the United States and Canada who at that time had Stargardts, and Dr. Fishman we had conferences once a year. We started in Chicago, and then we moved that around to Atlanta and Arizona, and we met lots and lots of families of children who was 8, 9, or 10 years old being diagnosed with Stargardts, as well as those who are a little bit older. And we did some research together with Wills Eye Hospital in Philadelphia, and I was awarded the Bauer Laboratory Cup of the Year. We just did some tremendous things, and as I said, helped over 2,000 families.
That's awesome, because it really is something that people get affected by so profoundly when they are diagnosed with Stargardt's or macular degeneration or any other kind of eye condition. It's a hard thing to accept sometimes, especially when you're later in life and you've driven, you've been independent, you've done things all on your own most of the time, right? And now all of a sudden you have this diagnosis that is not necessarily like stopping you from doing a lot of things. It does stop you from driving. So please don't be out there driving when you're low vision, right? But you know, things just become a little more challenging, as I like to say it, right?
Yeah,
But we
yeah.
can overcome by doing certain things in our daily living. And some of those things are really, really helpful. Like you like to talk about eccentric viewing, right? And that's more geared towards people with central sight loss. Is that correct?
That's correct. And there's so many good strategies of how to improve your functional vision. So we talk about, meeting with patients now. I'm working with a nonprofit here called People Who Care, and volunteering my time to meet with patients and families about how to gain function, how to gain improvement in quality of life and being able to read. And so I think back to those who are early diagnosed with Stargardt's and other inherited retina diseases. I really always urge people to be in touch with the Foundation Fighting Blindness, and they do a lot of work in helping raise money for genetic testing and other programs for families. So get in touch with them. And then when I meet with patients, I urge them to actually, when they go to their retina specialist, their doctor for these diseases like macular degeneration, diabetic retinopathy, to request a letter, a medical letter every time you go, and be able to form your own medical file. And you need to ask them, and they put this in your records anyway, so have them print it out for you. You know, what is the diagnosis? What is the vision acuity measurement in each eye? They call it best corrected. So with your glasses, what's your vision in your right eye and your left eye? Have them write that down. The appearance of the macula, the appearance of the retina when they look inside your eye. And this is an important step in helping you understand. And there's so many people that I work with, they don't know their vision acuity. They don't know if it's
Mm,
slightly worse. And with with keeping your own medical records, I think that's step one. And then have them do a prognosis. Have the doctors give their best effort in telling you what is going to happen the next 6 months, the next year or two with your vision. If it's changing, help you understand and start to cope with the ideas of what it's going to mean to lose a little bit more vision and so forth. And so that's kind of step one
right.
I think, in how to improve somebody's outlook and understanding of their own vision impairment. I've had so many people say, my grandmother had something years ago, but nobody in our family really knew what she had. And so it's really important, especially now with the genetics and how some of these diseases run in families, to understand fully and to go on to YouTube and follow some of the foundation's work that they do. Then we talk a lot about those who are have central vision loss, and the whole concept of the fact that the macula is, of course, right in the center of the retina, and a person that's early onset of macular degeneration might be losing, like a pie with 8 slices, they might be losing part of the macular function. So if they look at a word like baker, they see BAK, but they don't see the ER, right? And
Right,
because
right,
those pieces of the pie or slices are gone. Or it's the opposite, people see KER, but they don't see the BA. And
right.
and so that's an important thing to understand, that as those pie slices go little by little degeneration, what are the strategies that we can use to help somebody cope with that? And that's an important step in also understanding. And usually there's degeneration in one eye versus the other eye. One eye is a little bit better than the other. And so if a person's, let's say their right eye was kind of more dominant over the years, if they have
Mm,
damage to that eye, now their left eye is better, but their brain still wants to use their right eye. And so we
right.
have kind of a secondary problem of, wow, you mean now that I'm trying to use a magnifying glass, instead of holding it right in the middle and trying to get both eyes to work together, maybe I should bring the material over here by my left eye where it actually sees better. And then what happens is the brain says, oh, I see we're doing something different now. Instead of doing the same old thing and getting frustrated and trying to use the eye that doesn't work as well. What we try to do is maximize the vision in the better eye. So the television set, maybe if I would turn my head, and now I'm facing the screen with my left eye, okay? And then
Mm,
the second part is, once those areas of the macula have degenerated where you have a large central blind spot, teaching your eye and your brain a new strategy we call eccentric viewing. So that means don't look in the center. There's probably a spot around the macula that still has healthy tissue. And so finding the spot is important by looking up, maybe up and to the right, or looking
mm,
over to the left, or a little bit up or a little bit down. That is trying to not move your head, because I see so many people that they come up to
yes.
a curb and they're moving their head to try to find where's the curb. And that's a
Right.
natural thing that happens to so many people. And so we say, instead of going on a search where it takes you 10 seconds to find the curb, why don't you
Mhm.
learn to, let's say, look, okay, my spot is if I look up and to the right, wow, the
Mhm.
curb pops right in. It only takes 1 second, you know. But what happens when people start to learn to look away from the center, when they blink, their eye will sort of go back to the middle again. And so
Right,
that gets
right.
really frustrating, especially when you're trying to do a task like, let's say, pouring a hot cup of tea, right? So if
Mm,
I'm looking straight, I'm at the potential of my eye to go back to the middle. I might burn myself. And so the second step of eccentric viewing is to find the best spot or vision and then practice holding that spot. We call it fixation or hold for 30 seconds so that your eye doesn't go back to the middle and you start to pour liquids, and you can do that for a longer and longer period. So that can be used, like I said, in walking. It can be used in pouring liquids or working in the kitchen. That strategy can be used when watching television. I might turn my head and get close to a smaller TV, so I'm very close to it, and I can see faces pretty well, but maybe I can't see the color of somebody's eyes, right? So, but if I move my eye up and to the right, oh my gosh, it pops right in. Okay.
Right.
So I know how to do that now. And that strategy helps in many situations. And then people don't
Absolutely.
realize when they're using a magnifying glass. Well, I'll use IrisVision as an example.
Mhm.
When I use IrisVision, of course, I can zoom in and magnify to see, otherwise not being able to see my wife's face, let's say 6 feet away. And so now with IrisVision, everything is magnified. I can see her eyes, her ears, I can see her lips, her chin, but maybe I can't see her nose because my blind spot is still there, but it's much
Mhm.
smaller when everything is magnified. So now using the device and eccentric viewing, wow, her face pops right in. Her entire face is now clear to me because I've got my eye up and to the right. So I help people with, for instance, with magnifying glasses, those who first start out using something like a 3x or a 4x magnifier, and they hold it like they normally do. And I help them understand, wait, let's move it over here by the better eye, right? And then
Mhm.
instead of holding it way far away, bring it up closer. And you'll see older people, their hands won't come up close and I have to push their arms like, learn to get closer, right?
Yeah.
And they look through it and they say, well, I can't see anything. It's not clear. And I say, okay, remember what we talked about? Move your eye. Oh, and they move their eye. They look
Right.
directly through the magnifier, right? And they move their eye. Oh, now I can see the words. And
Mhm.
I thought I was going to take this magnifying glass and return it because I was unhappy with it. And so these are the struggles, right? This is not
Yes.
easy. This is not easy stuff. Learning the strategies of how to use not only the vision aids, but using those together with the skill of like eccentric viewing. That's the rough part. Takes practice. I tell people 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon, 20 minutes in the evening. Don't skip a day.
Right.
Do that every day in all these different circumstances.
Absolutely. And all of this I learned from you. Thank you so much. And I definitely implement this in the coaching sessions too, because like you're saying, there's so many people that come into um, Iris Vision and they don't know how to use the sight they
Yeah,
have left. So
yeah,
I've definitely learned quite a bit from you in regard to eccentric viewing. That's why I knew this episode was going to be so great and so important for so many people that maybe don't understand what's going on with their sight loss. Now they're hearing it directly from you, the professional, the person who I learned from, and hopefully they'll be able to implement this in their daily living, regardless whether they have iris vision or not. It's a really great thing to practice and do. I know that for me, when I move my eyes up to about the 1 o'clock position,
mhm,
right? That's pretty good for me. That's where my quote unquote sweet spot is. Um, and I've learned how to do that myself, I think naturally, because when I lost my sight when I was 12, I didn't really get a lot of this information, right? So I developed that on my own, so I naturally do it. But for those people who don't know how to adapt, this is so important for them to practice, to learn about, and to kind of implement in their daily living. again, regardless whether you're using low vision aids or not, would you agree that it's an important skill to develop?
It definitely is. And I like that you mentioned the 1 o'clock position, because we talk about it like a clock, thinking of going from the center to out into an area, whether it's 1 o'clock or over here by 10 o'clock, right?
Mhm.
Everybody has some spot that they could use. And actually, many people, I remember one woman coming up to me after I lectured, and she said, I can't do that. And I noticed that her eye was going to the side when she was talking to me.
Oh.
And so her brain was actually already doing it. She just
Right.
was not aware. And
Mhm.
so what I think is important is that, yeah, you might be actually doing it and not knowing it. But when you take a conscious effort to be in control of where your eye goes, now you, instead of searching all the time, now you have the ability to go directly to an area. You want to pick up a pill off the table.
Mhm.
I tell people, not only should you practice moving your eye to a better position, but why don't go ahead and make it worse, and then make it better, and then make it worse, and then make it better. What you're doing is, oh, and then your brain connects and says, oh, now you're in control of where your eye is going. You know what makes it better. You know what makes it worse. So in
Mhm.
so many situations, I might be walking down the street and I might look above a store and I see an address or a number, right? Well, if
Right.
I'm looking and I see my eye going from left to right, I'm moving my eye right into my blind spot. So I tell people, guess what? Try to read it backwards. So if I look at the last number, and
Mhm.
now I'm going to go from right to left, and I see 301, and I say, oh, it's 103. He said, Tom,
Right.
why do you do that? I said, when you go back to your eye doctor, and they're testing you on the chart, ask the doctor, hey, could I read it backwards? Would that be okay? Because what you're doing again is you're in control. Your blind spot is to the right of where you're looking, and then you're coming across. I don't know how many times in my life I looked at a number like 10, and then there was a decimal point, and I didn't know there was more numbers right to the right. I thought it was
Right.
10, and it was actually 10.36 or something, right?
Mhm.
So all these tricks and these things that happen in our life are so important to be able to go forward. And so then I talk to people about the psychological parts of, don't go inside and give yourself messages about what I call being a victim. That's a road you really don't want to go on. You want to go on the road of finding a good low vision center. We call it
Mhm.
low vision rehabilitation because it does take practice and practice. And so many people give up or they don't seek the help and they feel like a victim. And once you start to go down that road, that can lead to depression. And if you're stuck that way, of course, counseling, I think, is a great thing. Finding somebody who would understand. Of course, you're going to be sad. Of course, you're going to be angry at the world, maybe like I was, but
Mhm.
not to think that you're a victim, and to be able to push yourself to go farther. I remember my reading machine where I would place the book under there, and the letters were like 3 inches high, and it was as I moved the tray, I'm reading 1 or 2 words at a time, and I called
Yeah.
it slow vision instead of low vision. And then I
Right.
then I learned to eccentrically view. So now my eye is up here. I could make the letters much smaller, and then I would move the tray, and my eye would stay above the line, and I
Mhm.
would read faster and faster and faster. And I remember when I was newly married, I was doing that and going to graduate school. And my wife said, "You can actually see those words." She was standing behind me, and she was trying to read from left to right, but I wasn't. My eye was still, and I was moving the paper. And I taught myself how to read that way. Um,
Wow.
And so there's all these things you just cannot give up. You just cannot feel like you're the
Absolutely.
victim. That's
And
so important.
right, and this kind of ties back to the last episode I did with Michael. I don't know if you remember him. He was a coach
Yes.
at one point at
Yeah.
IrisVision. Now he's going to school. He's getting his degree for being a rehabilitation counselor for low vision. So we were actually talking about self-advocacy. First and foremost,
Yeah.
self-advocacy, right? That's so important. And it's easy to fall into that victim mindset, or that spiral down that rabbit hole, as they say, and
Yes.
become depressed. But it's so important to know that there is so much out there, so many different programs, different organizations, different tools that are available to you as a partially sighted person, to help you along your journey, because that's basically what it is, right? It's a journey. So okay, the trail got a little rough. It's okay. If you keep going, it's going to get easier and easier and easier, and next thing you know, you'll be looking at a valley of beautiful flowers or something, to use that kind of metaphor,
No,
right?
it's important. I think the support groups, the self-help groups, find a group of people, even if it's only start a group yourself, even if it's only 3 or 4 people, to be able to meet every month or twice a month. I lead 2 support groups right now in Prescott here, and I, even though I'm the leader, I walk away each time feeling like, wow, I've made a connection with people who really do understand, and sometimes family or friends don't really truly understand, and so
Right.
to be in a group of people who really understand, and then, as you know, we live longer with low vision and we're through some of that adjustment period. You mentioned advocacy, and I think that's just such a key thing, that we have to start having the courage to start to talk to people that we meet every day. We have a doctor's appointment, say, Doc, I want to tell you something about my vision impairment, what's important. Um, Start advocating for yourself and for everyone else, right?
Right.
Because so many people they're ignorant, they don't understand. I
Mhm.
went to actually an appointment at my podiatrist, and the woman's like, please sign in. And I said, the sign-in sheet was so skinny that I couldn't even see the lines. And
Mm.
I explained to her, that I legally blind, visually impaired, and I'm going to need some assistance. And she wasn't sure all about it and kind of huffed and puffed. And I
Wow.
said, I meant to talk to the doctor and the staff. And I said, you're serving a lot of seniors, and macular degeneration is very prevalent. Your staff really should understand that when you're asking for assistance, that's important. And he apologized, of course. And everywhere I go, I start to think more and more about advocating now for the visually
Right.
impaired and how important that is.
Absolutely, because our condition and so many others are what we call an invisible disability, right? Michael and I talk about that a lot. It's an invisible disability. You can't tell just by looking at us that we can't see,
Right,
right?
right.
And it's like very frustrating sometimes when you do get that type of reaction, or when you have those who feel like you're maybe faking it. I mean, sometimes people look at me funny because, as I talked to you earlier in this week, I got on a bike the other day, on a bicycle, and that was definitely putting my eccentric viewing to the test, for sure. Um,
Yes.
but they see me do those type of things, and they're like, "How is it possible then that you can't see?" Well, unfortunately, it is. And I got to tell you, I had a death grip on those handlebars, and I think I gave myself carpal tunnel or something. I don't know. But it was fun. But we can do these type of things, right? It's
Yeah.
maybe a bit more challenging, like I said, but we can absolutely do these type of things.
And I
Um,
think I think like you said, pushing yourself, trying new things. I remember, yeah, when I first got on a bike, I hit a big rock in the road,
Whoops.
and then I realized if I look up, And then I look over here to the right, then I can see better to the left. Then I move my eye to the left and I can see better to the right. And I had this triangle of moving my eye. And as long as I was concentrating, I was doing great on the bicycle. So it became a strong hobby that I did for many, many years. And so all these things that we're talking about are so important in being able to move forward. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about advocacy for a minute. And I have an ID cane, they call it. It's similar to a white cane that a blind person uses, but it's smaller and real skinny and lighter, and it folds into like 7 pieces. So I might be at the airport, I might be walking into a dark restaurant. And if I have that ID cane, people know immediately. I don't have to explain. As you said, it's invisible otherwise, that I might not look blind, right? So I have found that ID cane to be just a great thing for me to be able to walk into a situation or ask for help. People know why I'm asking for help, because I'm holding this cane. And then they might escort me to a table, and I fold up the cane and I put it away. I've only used it for 3 minutes maybe.
Right.
But that cane is a way to also help me to advocate more in different situations when I'm by myself. And I think that's important.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And a lot of people are afraid or embarrassed or reluctant to use something like an ID cane. And I must confess, I'm, one of those people. It was a very tough thing for me to accept using my ID cane, because I learned about the ID cane once again from you. Yay.
Well,
And
you know,
I've
the,
been
the
using it a lot
breakthrough,
more.
I would say the breakthrough for me, and I know exactly what you're saying. Who wants to use a white cane, right? So the
Mhm.
breakthrough for me was when I started traveling by myself. And I remember going to the airport in Toronto. And as I got off the plane, we walked down this long hallway. And I got to the room, there was 500 people waiting in line for customs, right? And they saw me coming down the hallway, and the security said, "Sir, come this way." And he escorted me to what they call a special service line. And I passed up all 500 people and went right through customs.
Wow.
It
So
took me
see,
about 2 minutes, and I thought, this is the best cane best idea I've ever had. And so, yes,
right,
so it allows you to get on the plane. If you're traveling with your spouse or something, it allows you to get on the plane first. I mean, it's a way that in a busy airport, I call it like the parting of the Red Sea. We get all these people coming off the plane, and you're standing or walking there. Everybody gets out of your way. And
right.
so it can be used. I would urge people to go ahead and try it. I know the
Me
Chicago
too.
Lighthouse, where I was a vice president for so many years, 10 years, they have a retail store called Tools for Living, toolsforliving.com, and ask them about the ID cane. I know they carry it there, and it's something that if you haven't tried it, start to be a little bit brave, start to advocate, start to use some of these tools to help your
Right.
life. Yeah,
And then again, circling back around to IrisVision, people are so intimidated to use their device, out in public. That I'm like, that for sure. I've never really had an issue with. I've always been one to, pull out my IrisVision at a restaurant, or at a grocery store, or at the movie theater, different places like that. Of course, at home I use it, but publicly I use it too. And some people
sure.
have a really tough time thinking about that because they feel it's big, it's bulky, or people are gonna look at them strange. And I'm like, I don't really care how people see me, because I can see. Okay. So and um all of a sudden I can read the menu. I can, sign the receipt and fill out the tip area. I can watch a full movie at the movie theater without having to nudge my neighbor and say, "Hey, why is everyone laughing? What just happened?" And in fact, I just went to the movie theater last week, and not only did I use my IrisVision, but I also requested the audio descriptive
Yes,
headphone.
yes,
And with those and IrisVision, oh man, that was a totally different experience at the movie theater, and I loved it. It was
yes.
really cool.
And most movie theaters now have the audio description, which they help narrate the movie. And my wife doesn't have to whisper to me anymore, and
Right.
she's thrilled about that and so forth. But no, you're right. Using these things in public, I remember so many times, maybe working in an area where I'm staying at a hotel. And so I'm waiting for a ride in the morning, and I've got my magnifying glass and I've got it right up to my eye like this. And of
Mhm.
course, many people know me in the field that I've been using this so long that it actually stays right in my eye, eye like this. And
Like a monocle.
and so I can't tell you how many times I've been sitting there doing my email or something, and somebody saw me in the lobby, and they would come up to me. They say, "Could I ask you something?" They're kind of reluctant, like, "We want to bother you." I'm like, "No, fine, I can." Oh, I have an uncle who was diagnosed with macular degeneration, or I
Mhm.
have an aunt who has glaucoma, and people
Yeah,
just they're hungry for information, and
sure.
so that was just a kind of an unusual way to start meeting people in public and talking about my own vision impairment.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the end, don't be afraid to lose to I'm not not lose. Don't be afraid to use your assistive technology, right? Your low vision tools. Use them. Definitely use these exercises that Tom has kind of shared with us too about eccentric viewing if you have some kind of central sight loss. Tom, thank you so very much for joining me today on this episode. I know that a lot of people are going to find it very informational and even inspirational because you are an inspiration to all of us in the low vision community. And I want to thank you so much for joining me today.
It was terrific, Myrna, and you're doing a terrific job, and great to be with you again.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. And thank you,
Okay.
everybody. We'll see you
All right.
next time. Bye.
Bye now. We made it.